Okay, so I just found this video of our nerve pulling exercise. Me, Hannah and Marlon in the workshop, we taught each other our own pieces that we created, and then we created a piece from that. I had piano music, just basic background music. The whole idea of the set, exploring levels, exploring how we position ourselves, how that can change the way the audience perceive the piece. So obviously Hannah's facing the back. This often exaggerates your movements. Obviously within this piece it was supposed to be over the top fold movements anyway, but when the audience can't see your face, the movements automatically do have to be bigger. Facing upwards on the chair, I think the dynamic that we have is, before I've even watched this, but I think the dynamic is really interesting between the three characters. I think that it does create a sense like a story. Obviously I'll talk about this and talk about the feedback that we got afterwards. So the idea of experimenting with nerve pulling, not just having it on our own, by the interaction of Marlon passing us the nerves, the slow and then the quick. The changing of positions wasn't the smoothest, but then I feel like this gives a total different effect. So the first was like, it feels like almost routine, like a mundane routine, a repetition, but this creates a different sense of like order, almost like factory. An interesting piece of feedback that we got actually from the guy who runs it, said he felt like it was in like a prison, like confinement and passing notes. Especially with this piece here, I can see why, because the nerve passing, we often pass it to each other. It's like this passing of notes, and the confinement is because there's such idea of routine, and it's all like in lines and systematic and stuff, so I can understand that sense as well. Trying to do that in Canon, I felt like that worked okay. It looked a bit like out of order, but I guess it's supposed to. So another thing that we experimented with was Canon. So this was really slow. Obviously this was a bit more difficult for me to see when they had finished, so the timing was out a little bit, but I think it was still effective in contrast as well, and into the music. And then back to it like more disorderly kind of. I feel like it's a progression of relationships as well, potentially. I don't know, for some reason I feel like me and Hannah got closer and Marlon got further away. This sort of separation, this maybe solitary confinement environment. But I have a feeling like you could repeat this piece many times, and if you increased volume or changed about with intensity of the actions, you could like definitely show a build up of some sort of routine that they're getting fed up of, or you could space them out slowly, gradually, and move them further away from each other, and that would also create an effect. Are a lot smaller. Unintentionally, my movements were a lot smaller in the final one that I created, and the other two, the movements were smaller in comparison to what we'd done previously. So I feel like that also showed like a gradual frustration, like a less of a free, like a more confinement, less freeing, and then we brought back together the idea of like potential exhaustion. We just fall back. Yes, I think like obviously looking at that was what we did in the workshop, and some initial ideas that we could definitely carry across to our pieces that we're going to devise ourselves.